again, welcome to South Tonight, coming to you from Jury's Hotel on the Western Road in Cork. Now, later on the show, I'm going to be meeting a journalist turned playwright whose experience in the courtrooms has inspired his latest play. But first, tonight, we return to finance matters, and we're going to be concentrating on mortgages in particular. Now, there may be a downturn in the housing market, but we Irish have always aspired to owning our own homes, and now, maybe more than ever, we need to know how to cut through all the jargon that goes with it. And to help me with that, we're joined by Jerry Owens from Mobile Mortgages. Hello, Jerry.
Morning, Martina.
And now, I suppose let's pitch this towards the person who's not ever gone into this area before and are thinking about buying their very first house. So we'll keep it quite simple. First of all, even just the difference, what is the difference between mortgages and personal loans? I
suppose there's a couple of differences, but the main difference is term. A personal loan is generally maybe 6 months to maybe 7 years, whereas a mortgage will be from 5 years to 35 years, 40 years. And equally, and then on top of that then, personal loans are generally small ticket items. It could be a car, it could be a holiday, whereas a mortgage is a big ticket item, is generally to purchase land or a house. And the big difference, again, the main difference is, with a personal loan, if you don't pay it back, the lender unfortunately has very little recourse because they don't have any security. With a house, they have that house as security, which is the secondary security for the lender, because they primarily lend on the basis of your ability to pay back the mortgage. But if you can't, they will get possession of the property and use that to sell, to raise money to pay off the debt, whatever the debt is at that point in time.
And unfortunately, I suppose we're seeing a fair bit of that happening at the moment. People have lost their jobs and they're unable to pay back
mortgages, and that is a problem. And people have negative equity, which means that even after paying off the mortgage, they may still have a liability to their lender, which will carry on for a number of years until they can pay it back.
Well, let's stick to the positives then, and for maybe somebody buying a house now. Interest rates is another thing that obviously they're going to have to sift through. What are the issues with that?
There's a number of issues, and I suppose some years ago the EEC brought out the APR as a way of giving punters the opportunity of deciding who is the cheapest deal at a point in time. All right, and therefore every lender, despite having fixed or variable and various connotations within that, they must provide the consumer with an APR, and they have to agree that with the financial regulator.
What is it exactly does it stand for?
APR is the actual percentage rate or annual percentage rate. But if you take a fixed rate for 5 years and then a variable rate, or a fixed rate for 3 years and then a variable rate, you take the APR, and whichever is the lowest APR is the better deal in the long term.
All right, so therefore should you always go with the lender who has the lowest APR?
Well, not necessarily, because even though you may have a low APR today, when your fixed price comes out, you may have a higher variable rate afterwards. In addition to that, just because you have the lowest APR, you may not be able to get the level of mortgage you might require to buy a property. So each lender will have a different set of criteria in terms of their lending.
Fixed rates and variable rates. So is there any advice as to which?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very conscious at the moment in particular. Fixed rates are only applicable, really, if you believe rates are going to rise. If rates are going to fall, I have to beg the question, why would you fix? Now, the big benefit of fixing rates is that you have a fixed budget for a period of time. But in the current climate, with rates falling, I think it's probably smarter for people who might say, look, for the next 6 months to a year, let's see where rates actually bottom out and then maybe fix it at that rate. But certainly I wouldn't have been fixing in the last couple of months, not with the ECB telling us we're going to be dropping rates.
Okay, and there are other advantages as well to being on a variable rate, I suppose. If you're in the lucky position of being able to maybe pay a lump sum off or pay off the debt completely, you do so then without a penalty if
Correct.
you're on a variable?
The legislation only allows a lender to charge a fixed rate penalty if you break the fixed rate contract during that particular period of time. And yes, it is one of the big advantages of having a variable rate. If you do come into money from whatever source, an inheritance, you can take a chunk off the mortgage and the lender can't charge you a penalty for doing so.
Okay. Jerry, you're from Mobile Mortgages, so tell me a little bit about what that's all about.
Primarily, I decided to get into that area because I felt a lot of people are caught time-wise having to go to an office. So Mobile Mortgages, the ethos would be that if you can't come to me, I can go to you. But equally, I have a text messaging service where you can text an amount of money to a phone number and it will reply back within 15-30 seconds and say, this amount of money over 35 years will cost you so much, just as a way of finding out how much will the mortgage cost.
All right, and is that a step that people don't often kind of take into consideration in a really serious way?
Oh, I suppose in some respects people are always looking to find out how much, and it might be Saturday night over dinner, I wonder how much that would cost. And you can't phone a broker at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. So this method just gives people an opportunity of, in the privacy of their own home, putting in the numbers, they get a quotation back, and they can then decide, I wonder, maybe we could afford that.
Are you getting
And
texts?
without having to give any information to the lender, they're not looking for names or telephone numbers. You simply send in your text, you get a reply back, and if you want to do more, then you can do more.
Right, that's a very unusual service. I hadn't heard of anything like that before. Are you getting texts at all hours of the evening and night?
I don't get them. They go to computer.
Oh, yes.
So the computer replies back, so it's 24/7, 365 days a year. And a lot of people have looked at it and they've said, yeah, it's a good service to have. And the text charge is only a standard text charge. It's whatever 6 cent, whatever your provider charges you. So it's useful enough. The number is 085 70 20 021. So if someone texts, they should get back a reply within 30 seconds.
Right.
And except on the one occasion when we're doing upgrades on the system, when it might be the following day.
Okay. And so finally, what are the impressions you're getting from people who are both trying to sell and trying to buy at the moment? How would you sum up just the current
in terms
market?
of the market, I think the difficulty is that people who own property are now looking at losing wealth, in the sense that 2 years ago they might have had a property which they would think was worth 500,000. Today it's probably worth 350. It's very difficult to kind of come down that. Now, it was paper money because it was there, but it wasn't really there because they weren't going to move. For buyers, certainly they're very conscious that at the moment, if the property market is still falling, if prices are still falling, then their question must be, well, should I buy now or wait 6 months?
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you're going to have a cheaper mortgage in 6 months' time because rates are still falling, your affordability is going to increase. With that, you may be able to buy a better house. So, I've always held the view, people shouldn't buy property on the basis of price. There must be a purpose to their purchase. And the purpose must be, I want to live in this park because, or I want to live in this house because. And the house must give benefits. If it doesn't give you the benefits you're looking for, then my advice is don't buy that property just because it's the right price. Price isn't the issue. It's the purpose behind the purchase.
And I think there probably were a lot of panic buys in the past of, because people just felt they had to get
Absolutely.
on the property ladder. Whereas now the caution is probably
just chasing price
a good
before.
idea.
The frenzy is gone, so you do have time to sit back, properly review the market. And I can't stress strongly enough, people should do some research on the property they're going to buy. If that means driving around the park at different times of the day to suss out what it's like for parking, for drive-through traffic, be there at 6 o'clock at night, are there kids marauding around the streets?
Yeah.
Even go so far as to knock on the door of the neighbour. And if someone comes out who's a battle axe, then you may think twice about buying the property next door. So yeah, just do some quick research.
All right, good advice indeed. And I know it's a very huge area, so that's why you're going to be back with us again next Monday and
Look
for
forward to
another
it.
few Mondays as well. So that's Jerry from Mobile Mortgages, and if you have any questions for him, you can send us an email to info@channelsouth.ie. You've got your own contact details as well?
Absolutely. info@mobilemortgages.ie.
There you go, sorted now. So we're in Cork all this week for South Tonight, and while working here in Cork, primarily as a court reporter, Liam Heelan got the inspiration for a new play called Love, Peace and Robbery, which interestingly enough will be staged in Cork Prison tomorrow. Quite an unusual venue. So Liam is here to tell me more about that in part 2 of the show.